When Melissa and I first met, which was approximately 7 years ago, we were immediately attached to one another and had a strong connection. When we were growing up, both of us were raised in the middle of the United States, where our strong Christian convictions placed God above everything else, even our families. During our time at church on Sundays, we discussed our plans for the future and considered what the future held for us. During the time that Melissa was thriving in her role as a sales representative for accounting software for a large computer firm based in Dallas, I was able to have a successful job as an engineer with a lot of prospects. In the years leading up to our wedding, my parents, who are quite affluent, presented me with a house that had 3 bedrooms as a graduation present. In contrast to the majority of individuals who wait until they have passed away, they believed that it was important to share their accomplishments while they were still alive. Ever since Melissa and I tied the knot a little more than 5 years ago, our relationship has been like a honeymoon that never ends. In addition to having a wonderful sexual life, we were able to get together at least 4 times every week. There were some of our friends who were openly envious of our connection, while others made jokes about how we appeared to be soulmates. Our happiness increased by a factor of 2 when we were given the gift of twin girls. Constructing a house that is loving and encouraging, as well as bringing up children, became our primary preoccupation. One could argue that our lives are uninteresting due to the fact that we spend the majority of our evenings preparing meals together at home. Sundays were always reserved for attending church, and Friday and Saturday evenings were reserved for going out instead of staying home. Both at work and at home, Melissa wore a dress that was pretty understated, and neither of us was especially interested in following fashion trends or mixing with other people. The intimacy between us was kept private, and we never showed excessive affection to one another outside of the bedroom. The foundation of our marriage was a connection that was honest and trustworthy, which allowed it to continue to thrive. Melissa was a naturally loving person who never failed to show her affection by making affectionate gestures such as hugs, kisses, and gentle touches. One of the things that I admire about her is that everything was shared between us, and despite the fact that there were difficulties involved in raising twins, I enjoyed every single moment of it. Indeed, they did on occasion lead Melissa to experience stress. Nevertheless, I was always there to provide her with assistance. A wonderful day was spent with Melissa and the girls, during which we had excellent communication, dealt with problems as they arose, and had a wonderful time. After then, Melissa received a message that she was expected to attend the annual show that her firm hosts because some of her coworkers had become infected with a virus. This notification came 1 week before the show. Despite her best efforts, she was unable to make much of an escape from the situation. The fact that she had to leave us for 3 days was something that she expressed regret to me. She also stated that she had done everything in her ability to prevent leaving, including having a conversation with her administrator. In her statement, she stated that she despised being separated from us. In spite of the fact that we would be fine for a few days, I assured her that we would miss her terribly. As soon as I had finished assisting her with her packing, we made our way to the limousine that her company had prepared for her to take her to the airport. Sincerity and trust were the cornerstones of our marriage, which was extraordinarily robust. Since the beginning of our relationship, I had never had any cause to doubt Melissa's loyalty or affection. Especially when it came to the upbringing of our children, we were always honest with one another and worked together to accomplish our goals. On the second night that she was absent, my buddy and coworker Matt wrote me a message after she had been gone for 2 nights. It was a cybersecurity event that Matt was attending in Dallas. After seeing Melissa at the exhibition, he asked me whether I was attending the same conference as her. He had seen Melissa there. Despite the fact that I was unaware of the title of the show, I was aware that she was in Dallas. When I read his post, I couldn't help but wonder what he was trying to convey. After that, he presented a short film in addition to taking 2 photographs. While I was frozen, I was overcome with a sense of dread. Not only had I never seen my wife in a dress of that length before, but in the very first picture, she was wearing the shortest garment I could ever fathom her appearing in. She was outfitted in heels that I was not familiar with, and the plunging neckline exposed more of her body than I was accustomed to seeing. She had flawless hair and makeup, and she turned out to be very stunning. At first, I couldn't help but laugh, thinking to myself, I wish Melissa would dress like that every once in a while. However, my laughter quickly vanished. The image that followed showed her seated next to a man who I knew as Tim Harper, who was her supervisor. I was unable to comprehend what I was seeing, so I simply stood there and stared, my mind completely blank. Melissa was seen smiling and looking directly into Tim's eyes in the photographs that were taken. My heart sank to the floor. I tried to convince myself that there must be a plausible explanation, but it was difficult to accept the possibility. And then the video appeared. Despite its short duration, the impact was significant. In the video, Melissa kissed Tim as his hand was on her chest. She did this while wrapping her arms around his neck. During that same instant, my entire world came crashing down. Having a difficult time breathing, I was experiencing nausea. When I started crying, I couldn't stop myself. The message was displayed. I hope all is well with you. You want me to do what exactly? Do you want me to check on her and see how she is doing? My response was, yes, I'll give her a call right now. Following a few rings, Melissa's phone number was transferred to her voicemail. There was a message that I left for her, in which I wished her a happy evening and informed her that we had missed her. Then, in order to provide Matt with an update, I sent him a message. I stated that I had merely attempted to communicate with her. The response that Matt provided was hurried and sounded guilty. Dear Jack, I am very sorry for everything. After taking a look at her phone and noticing the call, she returned it to her back pocket without any more action. In the past, she has never behaved or dressed in such a manner. Things are well, Matt. I am grateful that you have informed me. I have found you to be an excellent buddy. This will be taken care of by me. You are not required to follow her. All you need to do is let me know if anything else takes place. Will you be okay, dude? Let me know. I won't be able to, but I will make it. What I need to do is not a mystery to me. Thanks again. I sat in the dimly lit living room, nursing a strong drink, trying to make sense of everything. How had I missed this? How long has it been going on? Nothing added up. Our relationship had only gotten stronger in the past 6 months. We were closer than ever. None of it made sense. An hour later, Matt sent more photos and videos. One clip showed them dancing, his hand resting on her back. Another captured a kiss on the dance floor. A photo showed them locked in a deep kiss, completely unaware the music had stopped. I knew it was over between Melissa and me, but there was still so much I needed to understand and work through. Using my problem-solving skills from years as an engineer, I spent the next few days carefully plotting my next move. Then Melissa surprised me with a call around 10 p.m., right after I'd received the last of those gut-wrenching photos. I took a deep breath, determined to keep my emotions in check and not let on that I knew anything about what had been going on. Hey, sorry I missed your call earlier, she said, her voice soft and sweet. I was at a dinner meeting and couldn't talk. I miss you so much, babe. I wish I could be there with you, cuddling under the covers, showering you with kisses. I miss you too, Melissa. I love you so much, and I appreciate you calling. The girls are doing great, by the way. I'll send you some photos. They miss you like crazy and can't wait for you to come home. I tried to get out of here tomorrow, but my boss insisted I stay. I hate being away from you guys, but we'll celebrate when I'm back. You finished for the day? I asked, trying to sound casual. Yeah, I'm about to go to bed. It's been a long day. Love you, babe. I'll call you tomorrow. Good night. I love you more than words can say, Melissa. Good night. After I hung up, the tears came again. It was true that I loved her more than anything else in the world, and everything that I had stated before was true. I was still holding out hope that everything that was happening was just a terrible nightmare. But despite the fact that the clock struck midnight, I was unable to fall asleep. I was always having a lot of thoughts. Did she actually spend the night in her hotel room? At this point, what was she doing? My phone flashed up with another message from Matt, and that became the answer to the question I had been asking. According to this new photograph, Melissa and Tim were seen sitting on a couch in the foyer of the hotel. While they were kissing, her arms were wrapped around his neck, and his hands were easily able to go up under her skirt. They put on a public exhibition of their affection for one another, giving the impression that they were a couple who were in love. The message that Matt sent said, "Friend, there is one more thing. It seems as though she is really busy, but I am finished for the evening. Let me know if you want me to stop what I'm doing. I have the ability to put a stop to this. As I stared at my phone, I made an effort to keep my feelings under control. Please accept my gratitude for the images, even though they are difficult to view. There is no longer any obligation for you to follow her. Permit her to go. The mistake was made by her, not by you. I really appreciate everything that you have done. My goodness, I am very sorry. In the event that you require my assistance, I am available. Warm regards. I'll take care of it. I cried myself to sleep that night, knowing that the woman I loved more than anything had betrayed me. Exhaustion eventually took over, and I found some brief comfort in remembering our wedding vows and the joy of raising our daughters. The next morning, Melissa sent me a flurry of affectionate messages, filled with hearts, kisses, and emojis. She told me how much she missed me and the girls, even hinting at a passionate night together when she got home. When she finally returned, she was nothing but sweetness, acting like nothing had happened. I started to wonder if maybe she had some kind of dissociative disorder or was unknowingly medicated. I searched for any kind of explanation, but deep down, I knew I had to face reality and prepare for her return. Our conversation seemed normal, with Melissa telling me how much she longed to be back with us. What hurt the most, though, wasn't just the affair itself, but the lies she told to cover it up. That deceit felt just as devastating as watching her kiss Tim in those photos. After learning of Melissa's betrayal through Matt's messages, I decided to take action. Using my tech skills, I discreetly installed tracking software on her phone, which I'd initially gotten to keep track of lost devices. I made sure to get the latest version, and even walked Melissa through setting it up, acting like it was just for convenience. The software had a voice recording feature too, which could capture calls, texts, and emails, automatically, tickly uploading everything to the cloud. Let me be clear, I never intended to spy on her before this. But after what I'd seen, my trust was shattered, and I felt like I had no choice. My top priority now was protecting our daughters and, if possible, salvaging our marriage. Caring for the twins kept me busy, which gave me some reprieve from the constant heartache. Whether it was making them breakfast, cleaning up their toys, or playing dolls, those moments were a lifeline amidst the chaos. Let me tell you, taking care of 3-year-old twins is no small feat. It was around 2 p.m., and I had just put the girls down for their nap. After tidying up the house and taking a shower, I sat down at the kitchen table to catch up on things. Melissa had sent me 6 more sweet messages, saying she'd call at 5 p.m. when her workday ended. After reading through them, I logged into the cloud account from my laptop and reviewed everything that had been recorded since I'd set up the spying software. I was speechless as I read through the text between her and Tim. Here are just a few excerpts. "You were amazing last night, babe. Can't wait for tonight. Thanks, honeybee. I had a great time too. Let's meet in my room after work before dinner. Sounds good, but I need to call my husband first. I'll be ready by 5:15. Does he suspect anything? Of course not. He thinks I'm still in love with him. We've kept it a secret for over 6 months, and he has no clue. Don't worry, my blood boiled. Honeybee? That was my nickname for her, something I called her during our most intimate moments. Now she'd given it to him? How blind had I been? What kind of fool was I? I slammed the laptop shut and hurled a lamp across the room, watching it smash against the wall. Rage that I had been holding in finally exploded. Just as I was about to throw something else, I heard the twins crying from their room. Their cries brought me back to reality, and I quickly calmed down. I rushed into their bedroom, scooping them up in my arms, holding them until they settled down. After cleaning up the broken glass from my outburst, I let the girls play in the living room while I poured myself another strong drink, trying to process everything that had happened. In my mind, our marriage was beyond repair, and it was time to act. I didn't have the emotional energy to listen to more of their conversations or go through any more files, so I let them pile up in the cloud. My plan was to keep up appearances with Melissa, pretending to be the loving husband she thought I was, while quietly figuring out my next steps. I needed to contact a divorce lawyer, hire a private investigator, and ensure I could get custody of the girls. Their well-being was the only thing that truly mattered to me. Hey, sweetheart, Melissa's voice came through the phone. How are the girls doing? They're missing their mommy, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Oh, I miss them so much, she said, her voice filled with affection. And of course, I miss you too. I can't wait to wrap my arms around you when I get back. I'm going to give you the biggest kiss you've ever had. I played along, just like I'd planned. I think of you constantly, darling. I can't wait to hold my loving, beautiful wife again. Soon, my love, she purred. We'll be together soon. I somehow kept it together, and our call lasted exactly 15 minutes. At 5:15, she ended the conversation with, I love you, Jack. I've got to catch the bus back to the hotel, but I'll message you later. I love you too, sweetheart, I responded, milling full well it was just another lie rolling effortlessly off her tongue. She had gotten good at this. As I hung up, the hurt from her deception was now turning into something darker. Contempt, anger, and a need for revenge. I had loved her with every fiber of my being, and the betrayal cut deeper because of it. But I was determined to expose her lies and make her face the consequences. When Melissa returned from her trip, I greeted her at the airport. She embraced me just as she had promised and kissed me like nothing had changed. Either she was a world-class actress or she still genuinely cared for me. I couldn't figure it out. Was her affair with Tim purely physical, or was there something more? Her behavior continued to confuse me. That evening, she spent a solid hour with the girls, relishing every moment with them. Later that night, she was particularly affectionate in bed, whispering how much she had missed me and the girls, saying how hard it was being away from us. She spoke of wanting nothing more than to be close, to hold me in bed. She was tender, loving, the complete opposite of the woman I'd seen in those photos at the exhibition. I returned her affection, playing the role of the doting husband, savoring every moment because, deep down, I knew it wouldn't last much longer. I hid the painful truth from her, continuing to shower her with love every night. To everyone else, our relationship looked perfect. People even envied us. But it was all just an act. For 3 long months, I watched closely for any signs of infidelity, but I saw nothing out of the ordinary. Melissa came home at her usual time. No unusual phone calls, no strange messages. A part of me even started to hope that maybe it was all a mistake and that things might somehow fix themselves. Then one day I got a call from Marcos, the private investigator I had hired. We arranged to meet the next day at his office downtown. When I arrived, he greeted me and led me into a conference room. Good afternoon, Jack. Good to see you again. Likewise, Mr. Marcos, I replied, bracing myself for what was coming. I wish I had better news, he said, his expression serious. Unfortunately, I have some tough information to share. Are you ready to go over our findings? I sighed and nodded, though I already knew deep down what he was going to say. Marcos placed a thick leather binder in front of me and set it down. Text messages, voice transcripts, video interactions, phone records, and photographs were some of the components that were segregated from one another. I have been keeping a close eye on her for the past 3 months, and nothing appears odd to me. Before we begin, Mr. Marcos, I rubbed my temples and said, I'm confused. I have been observing her very carefully. Her marriage has been perfect in every way. All of this is completely ilk. Marcos made a calm statement. Let me explain it to you, and we'll see if anything makes sense. I had been unable to bring myself to look over the data that were stored in the cloud because I was clinging to the idea that everything will work out in some way. These hopes were dashed, however, when Marcos flipped the pages of the book. In addition to the 25 pages of emails and the more than 75 pages of text messages, there were also 75 pages of images that were time-stamped and showed Melissa and Tim entering and exiting their hotel rooms together. The document contained more than 82 video calls and 50 pages of transcripts of phone conversations. Over the course of the last 3 months, Marcos stated in a steady manner, Melissa and Tim have been meeting at a motel at least 4 times a week. On average, they spend 2 hours together at each of these meetings. I could feel my stomach churning as I listened. After that, Marcos presented me with a photograph of a different individual. According to what he said, it would appear that she has also been seeing this man for the aforementioned month. Is he someone you are familiar with? At the same time as I was looking at the picture, I felt the blood drain from my cheeks. This is Alex Black, right? He is the chief executive officer of her company. What you're saying is that she has 2 men in her life, is that correct? Is the chief executive officer one of them? At that moment, Marcos's face softened. Afraid to say that. As can be seen via the texts, phone chats, and videos, she has certainly been in a physical relationship with both of them and has been communicating with them. Following a little pause, he continued, "There is a video that can be accessed with the title Balcony. A private moment between the two of them is depicted on the balcony, with Alex leaning over the railing behind her. It was not brought to their attention that they were being filmed. In addition to the audio being recorded, the high-quality video also includes close-ups of their faces that are easily visible to the viewer. When Marcos played the footage, he looked at it on a massive 80-inch screen. My heart was shattered into a million pieces as I saw the woman I had once loved leaning over the balcony with her CEO standing behind her. It seemed as though I was going to become ill eventually. It was necessary for me to leave the room for a few minutes in order to collect my thoughts before I could deal with any more of how it was. Because I was interested in learning everything there was to know about my wife's activities, I asked Marcos to continue speaking when I returned to the conference room. In a solemn tone, Marcos stated, "The video titled Balcony 2 shows your wife with both Alex and Tim at the same time. If you want to move forward with your divorce and custody battle, these recordings may prove to be beneficial due to the fact that they were made in public. Please accept my apologies for having to present all of this to you. Despite my continued inability to accept the fact that this was Melissa, I sat there with my mouth hanging open. I felt a strong want to believe that something had gone wrong." Marcos added, "Jack, that we have conducted an investigation against Alex Black and Tim Harper. Additionally, Tim has been married for 10 years and is the father of 4 young children. Alex has been married for a quarter of a century and has 3 children who are now adults. Your wife and Tim exchanged text messages, and according to those communications, Tim invited Alex to participate in their actions after Melissa expressed interest in a love triangle or something similar. Despite the fact that it is more harder to read, I will allow you to go through it at your own time. This is the USB drive and folder that contains everything. It is likely that your attorney will request both of these objects. The quantity of evidence that we had accumulated by the time we met was so extensive that it blew my attorney away. It astonished her how well Melissa had managed to keep her affair a secret inside the confines of her own house. Melissa, who was acting out the role of a devoted mother and wife, continued to give the impression that nothing was amiss. In light of the information that I had provided, my attorney provided an overview of the various legal options. Nonetheless, she required some time to carefully consider everything available to her. I informed her that she should start the process of filing the divorce paperwork as soon as possible, and we both agreed to meet again the following week. As I left the attorney's office, I had the sensation that I was completely devoid of anything. The fact that I had watched those pictures had eliminated any chance of reconciliation that had been left, despite the fact that I had known for a long time that it was gone before these meetings. While I was putting the girls to bed later that night, Melissa and I settled in to watch Unfaithful, a movie that I had found on Netflix. I couldn't stop asking myself, who was this woman I thought I knew? I made a casual suggestion that we give it a shot because I had heard that it was fantastic. Because I was familiar with the movie's central message, I was prepared to engage in conversation. A female intern at my place of employment, who had been pursuing me for several months throughout the film, was brought up in a casual manner by me. "Would you be able to picture me with another person?" In an effort to maintain a positive attitude, I laughed. The eyes of Melissa were narrowed. "Is that true? Who is it? As soon as I notice that you are even considering dating her, I will leave." Given her own actions, it was astonishing how furious she could be about the concept. She was quite serious when she declared, "You are mine and no one else's." Given the fact that she was referring to herself, it was driving me absolutely insane. "Jack, I don't understand why you took so long to tell me about her. Please tell me her name." She exerted herself. "Her name is Melissa, and she is only a young intern who is flirty." I forced a smile and replied, "Calm down, Melissa. Aside from that, I haven't paid her any attention." "Where do you stand? Have you ever noticed that even if you are the most stunning lady at your office, nobody flirts with you?" "Obviously not," she shouted out again. "Everyone knows that I am married and I would never cheat on you. I would never do something like that. Do you mean that in all the years that we have been together, You have never once entertained the idea of dating someone else? Is there not even a single friendly kiss? When was the last time you cheated on me? She grew quite angry. At this point, are you sure? The question was posed to me. But how? Every time I tell you that I love you, I mean it. You have always had my undivided devotion. The very idea that you would ever consider doing so is incomprehensible. After immediately apologizing and agreeing to maintain the peace, we were able to resume watching the movie. On account of the fact that she was so convincing, I believed that she could have been an actor. It is easy to understand why she was so successful in her career. When she finally relaxed and placed her shoulder against mine, I knew that it was time to let go of the stress. As soon as I grabbed my phone and opened the messaging app, a picture of Melissa and Tim kissing each other on the dance floor, with his hand behind her, showed on the screen. I am curious, Jack. What am I doing? To what extent do you not watch the movie? I responded in a composed manner. Because what I'm looking at is a bit more real. She asked me, "What do you mean?" with a tone that became increasingly irritated. I turned the screen of my phone toward her and turned off the movie when I did so. The image of her and Tim exchanging a passionate kiss circulated across the room, filling everything with sensation. Her mouth moved as if she were going to explain, but she remained silent and did not say anything. I answered with a harsh response. "That's quite the kiss you're giving, Tim." Finally, she was able to ask, "Where did you get that? Since you and your friend Tim Harper were having dinner, is that correct?" After seeing you two, my friend Matt sent me a text message to inquire as to whether or not it was in fact you. As luck would have it, it was. This is the message that he delivered to me. "Despite the fact that it was the most revealing item I've ever seen you wear, I have to confess that you looked really stunning in that dress. Might you be attempting to make a good impression on your boyfriend? If you want to talk, I'll be listening." How would you elucidate that statement? It was difficult for her to find the appropriate words, which caused her confidence to waver. "No, Jack, that was just one of your dances." Following the conclusion of the song, he grabbed me and kissed me while he was under the influence of alcohol. You are oblivious to the fact that I caused a commotion and then grabbed him right afterward. That is something that I would never make happen. It wasn't until now that I became aware of how revealing the dress I had purchased for a business dinner was. I truly apologize. Although it was obvious that she was making an effort to change the situation, I was not convinced. I get it. Unforeseen events do take place. Did it happen to be the only thing that took place? I complied with her, giving her the idea that I was accepting her reasons. "Yes, baby," she responded with trembling. "And it won't happen again." There was a noticeable increase in Melissa's level of anxiety when we resumed watching the movie. After a few minutes had passed, I once again grabbed my phone and viewed a video of her and Tim seated on a couch, with his hands sliding underneath her skirt. I was given a look that conveyed her fear. "What are you watching now? Remember that night you called me, saying you'd had a long day and were heading to bed?" "Yes," she whispered gently to herself. "Well, Matt sent me another message about 2 hours after that. This time it was a video. Want to see?" I asked, hitting play. The video showed her and Tim kissing on the couch, his hands roaming where they shouldn't have been. "I'm eager to hear a new explanation," I said, smiling. By now my anger had turned into something colder, contempt and a strange sense of amusement at her desperation. Melissa's voice trembled. "Jack, I'm so sorry. After we hung up, Tim called me to discuss a client issue we have for the next morning. He asked me to meet him in the lobby to go over some details. I had a few drinks and got a little tipsy. You know how I am when I've had too much. I know the video looks bad, but nothing else happened. I told him to stop, reminded him that I was married, and then I went to my room." I raised an eyebrow. "That's part of the problem, honeybee," I said, watching her flinch at the nickname. "I've always believed you, but in the last 20 minutes, you've lied to me twice. Can you understand how I feel? Here I am, sitting at home, and the woman I love is off kissing her boss in some bar, wearing the most revealing dress I've ever seen her in. How do you think I feel?" "Jack, I love you," she sobbed. "That was 3 months ago. Why didn't you confront me earlier?" "Honestly," I said, staring her down, "I wanted to see if you'd come clean on your own. I hoped you'd be as honest and transparent as we've always been with each other. But now I see where we stand. So tell me, are there any other lies? Do you find yourself drawn to him? Have you given any thought to leaving me behind? I was toying with her now, enjoying the way she squirmed under the weight of her own deceit. She started crying harder, swearing up and down that she loved me and only me. Melissa, please don't keep telling me how much you love me. I know you do, and I still love you. But that doesn't change the reality of these photos. I need answers. Are there any more lies? She took a deep breath and made an effort to remain calm and collected. I ask that you believe me, Jack. It was simply a kiss that took place. Each and every time, I urged him to cease. Even though I am not certain what Matt told you, you are obligated to believe what I say. Even though I was pretending to ponder about what she had said, I let out a sigh. Right, sweetheart, I have faith in you. A question that I do not comprehend, however, is why you chose to dress in such a manner for him. Is it for him to do? For me, you have never seen you wearing anything like that. Also, do you find yourself drawn to him? Please, I need the truth. Her tears started up again. No, Jack, I only love you. I never want to lose you. I don't know why I dressed that way. Maybe it's because the other women were wearing similar outfits, and I wanted to fit in. I felt insecure, but nothing happened, I swear. I gave her a long look, my mind already set. I understand that, but why didn't you tell me about Tim and your interactions? If nothing happened, why hide it? I didn't want to upset you, she whispered. He's my boss, and I didn't want to risk my job. If anything had actually happened, I would have told you right away. You believe me, don't you? I comforted Melissa with a kiss, gently holding her as she cried. Exactly at that time, I started making preparations for a month-long plot to extract my revenge. During that evening, we engaged in sexual activity, and I found myself becoming distant from her, like if I were one of her partners. Neither would I warn her about anything that was out of the ordinary, nor was I going to deny myself the opportunity to own her body. Although I didn't care at the time, she did an excellent job in the task that she was assigned. The intensity with which she was seeking to persuade me that I was the one person in her heart was stronger than it had been in the past. Over the course of the subsequent 3 weeks, she turned in a faultless performance each and every night, and I did nothing but sit back and take in the show. As soon as I woke up the next morning, I checked the cloud to see if there were any new messages from Tim. In contrast to what I had imagined, she did not disappoint me. My goodness, Jack was the one who ended up getting the photographs that were taken of us during the event. His acquaintance observed that I was not with Jack when we were at the restaurant. We can be seen kissing on the video, but I'm not sure if he is aware of it just yet. When you say that, I remember a man who was standing across from us, and he was carrying a phone. Oh, no. During that time period, I did not give it a lot of thought. How did Jack react to the situation? Insignificant. I informed him that it wasn't a big deal at all, that I spent the night in your room is something that he is not aware of. I explained to him that the reason was solely due to the fact that I had made atonement after drinking a limited amount of beer. He has always been susceptible to being swayed. All it takes is a few kisses and some pleasurable sex to make him forget everything that has happened. Dearest, please be careful. At 1 o'clock we will be meeting. The following day, as is customary, it excites me. Dearest, I adore you so much. As for me, I adore you. The last message was the one that was sent. For a while I sat there, taking in all that was going on. Despite the fact that I felt like the biggest idiot in the world, the act of plotting your revenge provides you with a bizarre sense of satisfaction. As a result, I proceeded with caution and awareness. During the time that I was waiting to find out how many more lies Melissa could reveal, I took pleasure in watching her play minor charades. My primary objective was to safeguard my financial situation. I transferred money around, terminated accounts, and other similar actions. Although I did not cancel my primary Visa card, I did reduce the credit limit to $2,500, which was just enough to prevent any substantial damage from occurring. Melissa never had any reason to suspect the changes I was making, and she remained completely oblivious to the growing rage I was experiencing. Due to the fact that I had owned the house before to our marriage, my attorney gave me the assurance that I would not be required to abandon the house on the occasion that the papers were served. I then proceeded to compose the infamous email. I had the intention of reaching out to Melissa's connections, friends, family, and coworkers with the videos, texts, and images that I had attached to the message. In order to make Mrs. Foster and Mrs. Gray feel as though they were a part of the pain, I also designed additional binders that were sent to them via mail. The distribution of these would take place at the same time as the delivery of the appropriate legal notifications. Additionally, my attorney was getting ready to file a public lawsuit against Alex, the CEO, and Tim, her boss. These lawsuits were going to be brought against them. Due of the widespread reputation that the company enjoys on the East Coast, my attorney was eager to include the CEO in the discussion. We had the intention of making a settlement offer prior to the full extent of their behavior becoming public knowledge. In addition, I made sure that I had all of the necessary paperwork and that I worked with a child services attorney to ensure that I would be granted full custody of the kids. For several weeks, everything seemed to be operating normally. Maintaining appearances, acting out the perfect marriage, and spending time with the children were all things that Melissa and I did. Throughout our conversations, we avoided bringing up the elephant in the room, and I'm sure that she was irritated by my lack of response. The fact that I was unable to comprehend my own thoughts must have been excruciating. In an effort to tease her, I asked her a few pointed questions here and there sporadically. "So, Melissa," I asked in a breezy manner one evening, "has your supervisor taken any action over the events that occurred at the exhibition?" I could even sense when she was going to lie. "Is there anything you need to tell me?" I knew everything from her conversations with Tim, but it was entertaining to watch her lie. However, she remained calm and assured me that their exchanges were solely professional and that nothing had occurred. She added steadily, "We hardly talk anymore because we've been so busy." I grinned to myself, still in awe of how easily she, the woman I once loved and the mother of my children, could deceive me. I made the decision to vent my remaining rage that evening. I challenged her by fully exploiting her in bed rather than using words. She let out a frantic cry. "Oh my God, Jack! What's wrong with you? Tonight you're acting really crazy. I liked it, but I've never seen you like this." Knowing that this would be our final meeting before everything blew apart the following day, I simply grinned to myself. I intended to extract as much as possible from my soon-to-be ex-wife. The sheriff asked to see Mr. Gray when he entered Technex Solutions' office the following afternoon. Alex received an envelope from Sheriff Clark a little while later. "You've been served, Mr. Gray." Alex stood by himself in his office, holding the envelope tightly as he repeatedly read the complaint out of anxiety. He called Tim into his office in a hurry. Tim had also been served by then. "What on earth? How did this occur?" Tim barged into Alex's office and demanded. Alex snarled, "I'm done if my wife finds out. You are responsible for this. You assured me that this woman would never expose us in this way. I'll ruin you and your family if you don't fix this, Tim. You get it?" It was not a good idea to cross Alex. Having fought his way to the top of a multi-billion-dollar company, he had no plans to give up. Tim's thoughts were racing as he rushed out of the office. He had to speak to Melissa right away. He observed the sheriff heading out the same way as he walked down the corridor toward her office. When he burst through the door, he saw Melissa seated at her desk with tears in her eyes. What took place? Her voice was stifled with emotion as she stammered. How did he learn about it? Tim said, "I don't know, but I've been served divorce papers. And because of what we did, Gray and I are both being sued in civil court. You showed me those two pictures, but there must be more proof. Gray will ruin us unless you can persuade Jack to stop this." Melissa cried, "Oh my God, Tim, this is awful. I'd rather not lose Jack. I need to figure out how to resolve this." Tim implored them to do whatever it took. Return home, speak with him, and help him understand. "Give me a call if you can tonight. Update me." Melissa gathered her belongings and drove home trembling. Her children's father, the guy she loved, was divorcing her. She truly loved Jack, but she couldn't help but be enthralled with the excitement of the affair, even if she didn't want it to end this way. She had to convince him now that she couldn't let him go because of this. The house was deserted when she got there. Every afternoon while we were both working, the girls were at Jack's sister's house. Inquiring about the possibility of keeping the girls overnight, Melissa called Jack's sister. She consented without question. After taking a shower and getting her hair and makeup done, Melissa waited impatiently for Jack to get home. She heard the garage door open around 6 o'clock. Her heart thumped in anticipation of the impending clash. I said, "I didn't expect to see you tonight, Melissa," as I entered. "I thought you and Tim would be together." "Hold on, this could get problematic because he's married and has children." "Jack, please," she said, taking my hand and pulling me to sit beside her on the couch. She appeared serene and almost more charming than she normally would have been in spite of everything. She had been getting ready for this moment. It was a game for me. "Although I was served today, Jack, I do not wish to get a divorce. You are already aware of this fact. You are the one I need and I love you. No, I will not sign those documents. I have no interest in Tim at all. There was sexual activity between us, but it wasn't love. I just needed it, and I'm very sorry about that. I solemnly swear that it will never go down again." "Oh, a guarantee from you?" I smiled sarcastically and replied, "Well, if that's the case, I guess I can trust you now than I did before. Let us put everything behind us and return to our normal routine." Melissa jumped into my arms and planted a passionate kiss on my lips. "Thanks a lot, sweetie. My love for you is very deep. I am quite appreciative that you comprehend and forgive me. I won't lie to you again, I swear." I pulled away, gently pushing her aside. "Melissa, you have delusions. I no longer have faith in you. Nothing remains after all the deception and falsehoods. I gave you numerous opportunities, yet you continued to deceive us and ruin our lives. Are you even conscious of the harm you are causing to our girls?" I can't turn my head away. "However, you don't seem to get why I'm pursuing Alex and Tim." Her shocked eyes enlarged. "Well," I added, "those partners of yours operate a multi-billion-dollar company. I'll need money to look after the girls when I go. I'll destroy them as well because they're somewhat to blame for ruining my life and our marriage. I'm going to use them the way they used you, destroy their families, and strike them where it hurts most, financially." Melissa had never seen me so concentrated, angry, and unwavering. She became aware that she had no control over me or the circumstance. She knelt in front of me, grabbing my legs and pleading for my forgiveness, while tears ran down her cheeks. I felt a glimmer of pity, but my rage was more intense. I calmly, almost condescendingly, spoke to her as I gently hoisted her up onto the sofa. "Melissa, here's the plan. Gather your belongings and spend a couple nights at your mother's house. Hire a lawyer. We'll schedule a meeting to discuss the matter. Here's some advice for the time being. Avoid Alex and Tim at all costs. Things are about to get messy." Later that night, Melissa went to her mom's house, telling her there had been a disagreement and she needed to stay for a while. A three-way call was initiated by her when she called Tim at 11 o'clock at night. "Do you happen to be here, Alex?" asked by her. "I am present," Alex responded. "Yes, I am." "Melissa, what exactly took place? Is it possible that you were successful in persuading him to abandon the divorce and the lawsuits?" Alex wanted to know. "Not at all," Melissa cried out. "I was ejected from the place, and he cautioned me that things were going to become unpleasant." Alex's voice erupted through the phone like a bomb cloud. "You, Tim, are Jesus Christ. What have you been up to? As an idiot you are. My life will come to an end if my wife discovers this information. You made a solemn vow that this woman would never betray us. If you don't fix this, I promise I'll come after you and your family. Do you comprehend?" Melissa shouted out, "I simply do not know what to do." Jack no longer has any control. My calls and texts are not being answered by him. It was Alex who interrupted her. "Tim, you need to set up a meeting with Jack. Make sure it's a public, noisy place. You'll be there too, Melissa. We'll attempt to get him to back off. If he declines, Tim and I will explain that if he doesn't withdraw the litigation, it will be far worse for him and his family." Tim, horrified, said, "Yes, Mr. Gray, I have your understanding. Do you know what it is that you need to do, Melissa?" "Yes, Mr. Gray, I agree." "That's good. Now is the time to make it happen. We're running out of time." Melissa and Tim hung up, both of them filled with dread. I have people who handle things like this, and I won't hesitate to use them. Their desperation didn't surprise me as I listened to the call that night. My next step was already planned. Tim contacted the following morning to arrange a meeting and make amends. We decided to get together at 6 o'clock, within a courtyard. I was getting ready at my private investigator's office by 4 o'clock. We were prepared to record crystal clear sound even in the cacophonous bar setting, thanks to our state-of-the-art equipment, which included noise-canceling microphones. In order to gather proof, the PI also filmed the meeting. I purposely kept them waiting by arriving at 6:15. I saw Melissa and her two accomplices as I approached the group. I'm shocked to see you here with your companions, Melissa. However, I suppose we are all aware of your allegiances. What brings us here, gentlemen? Alex was the first to speak. I'm Alex Blackjack. This meeting was requested by me. Gray, I murmured, examining him. In person, you appear different. You're not adequately represented in these videos. I can't say that meeting you has been enjoyable. Alex made an effort to remain calm. Jack, I know you're angry. I'm not sure how I would respond if I were in your position. But we need to discuss something important. Go ahead, I said, playing along. You are urged to withdraw the litigation that have been filed against me, Tim, and the firm. I let out a chuckle. Are you sure? Oh, I'm sorry, but that won't work. When the thing that is most essential to me in my life is taken away, someone needs to pay for it. I gave Melissa a quick glance. Being the mother of my children, she is the only woman I have ever loved. After coming to terms with the seriousness of the situation, Melissa started crying. If you want to put an end to this situation and get Melissa back, what will it take? Alex said, name your price. While attempting to sound somewhat reasonable, the tone of my voice was icy as I leaned forward. In the first place, I would not return her to you for any amount of money. The lives of our children were wrecked, and she betrayed both my confidence and my love for them. The lawsuits, however, will be dropped if two criteria are met. First and foremost, I want for a compensation of $5 million. The second reason is that I would like to meet both of your wife, and Melissa is required to reveal everything to them. Angry expressions appeared on Alex's face. To heck with you, Jack. I'll give you $100,000 and you'll sign an agreement to keep this quiet forever. I smiled, unbothered. That isn't going to work. On one stipulation, though, I'll reduce it to $4 million. The truth must be known to your families. Alex became enraged. You're dooming yourself. Consider it, Jack. Put an end to the lawsuits and reclaim Melissa. It was only a brief affair. We can fix this. I took my phone out and texted 2 pre-planned messages. I then went to my email and sent the mails with all of the texts, images, and videos. Now Melissa's friends, family, and co-workers had them in their inboxes. In the meantime, 2 couriers that I had placed outside of Alex and Tim's residences were bringing parcels containing binders of evidence to their wives. The phone rang for Alex. Next is Tim's. Their spouses were phoning. Alex gave me a very angry look. Jack, what the devil? Are you dropping the litigation now that I'm speaking with you? I spoke calmly while leaning back. Go to hell is my response to you, Tim and Melissa. At that moment, the phones of Tim and Alex rang once more. When they recognized the enormity of what had just transpired, their faces went white. Melissa gave me a perplexed expression. Jack, what's going on? Her voice was shaking as she asked. I said, check your email. I think you'll understand soon enough. Alex, red-faced and seething, pointed at me. Your life is over, Jack. Your throat will be sliced, and I will watch as you bleed out like a dog for me. Having said that, he walked out of the bar in a huff. The moment Tim was on the edge of crying, he turned to me. How come? I don't understand why you would treat me in such a manner. An eyebrow was raised by me. To be serious? Do you find it surprising that someone would respond to the fact that you have been exploiting my wife on a daily basis for months, thereby destroying my marriage? It was for her that I transmitted everything that I did to your wife, so that she might get a sense of the kind of man you are. After seeing the emails, Melissa's sister, brother, and aunt all called her. When Melissa opened her inbox and read what I had sent, her eyes widened in fear. She stared at me in shock, her mouth dropping. How could you do this to me? She asked. You destroyed countless lives, Tim. Just at that moment, Melissa's phone started to ring. She murmured in awe. In a cold and collected manner, I responded, Darling, you made it too easy. I still love you, Melissa, but this relationship is finished. My attorney is convinced that I will be granted full custody of the girls once I have handed over this recording to the concerned authorities and social services officers. Hopefully you won't have to go to jail for this. It is unfortunate, but you will have to deal with the repercussions. As part of the settlement, Omnitech paid me a total of $2 million. As a result of his violation of the morals clause in his contract, Alex Black was terminated from his position as CEO and was left with nothing. Both his severance package and the stock options that were worth more than $10 million were taken away from him. The additional charge of conspiring to commit murder resulted in a sentence of 5 years in jail for him. While he was serving time in prison, his wife filed for divorce, leaving him destitute and without a place to live. It wasn't any better for Tim either. He was divorced by his wife, who is now receiving alimony equal to half of everything. He was found guilty in a civil trial and was given a fine of $1 million. In the end, he was made to work as a day laborer, and he was impoverished and insolvent. The penalty that Melissa was given was 5 years in jail. However, I was able to get it reduced to 1 year of house arrest and 4 years of probation, rather than the original term of 5 years. Her custody of the children was taken away, and I am now in full custody of them. As her depression worsens, she moves into the basement of her mother's house, where she is cut off from the rest of her family. Since the beginning of her downward slide into self-destruction, she has not seen the daughters. Although I did feel some satisfaction from my retaliation, it has not completely healed all of my scars. Despite the fact that I still adore Melissa, the betrayal continues to linger. The fact that I am able to take care of my girls is what keeps me going, but it will be many years before I'm able to allow love and trust to enter my heart again. It is shocking how a few insignificant deeds may result in the loss of so many lives. Caution is in need here.